The human wouldn't stop bleeding. Not metaphorically, mind you. I mean, she was literally dripping crimson fluid all over my pristine interrogation pod, and frankly, it was becoming quite the inconvenience. 3 rotations of questioning, 0 words extracted, and now my cleaning servo was making that annoying whirring sound again. My name is Kex-9, Senior Intelligence Officer of the Vorthan Empire, and in my 200 cycles of service, I had never encountered a specimen quite like Lieutenant Maya Torres of the Terran Defense Coalition. Most prisoners either broke within the first solar hour or at least had the courtesy to provide some basic biographical data. This one, she just sat there, staring at the wall behind my left shoulder with those unsettling blue optical sensors of hers. Fascinating species. Humans, I muttered to my assistant, Nix-4, as we observed Torres through the one-way barrier. According to our xenobiology reports, they should have cracked by now. Sleep deprivation alone typically yields results within 48 of their primitive time units. Torres shifted slightly in her restraints, wincing as the neural disruptors sent another wave of discomfort through her nervous system. Still nothing, not even a whimper. Perhaps we should increase the intensity, sir, Nix-4 suggested, his tentacles twitching with what I recognized as impatience. Young officers, always eager to escalate. Patience, I replied, though internally I was beginning to question my own methods. Humans are reportedly emotional creatures. Eventually she will break. That was 3 rotations ago. Now I was starting to wonder if our intelligence files were complete fiction. The capture itself had been routine enough. Torres' reconnaissance vessel had been patrolling the outer rim of the disputed Kepler sector when our stealth cruiser intercepted her. Standard procedure, really. Her ship's defensive systems were laughably primitive compared to our technology, and her surrender came after we disabled her engines with a single plasma burst. What made Torres valuable wasn't her military rank, though that helped. No, what made her absolutely crucial to our war effort was the quantum encryption key embedded in her neural cortex. According to our spies, this key would unlock the Terran military communication network, potentially ending their resistance within a single campaign cycle. The only problem? Extracting it required her conscious cooperation. Sir, Nix-4 interrupted my thoughts. The High Command is requesting another status update. I suppressed a growl. The 3rd this rotation. High Admiral Vex Prime was growing impatient, and when Vorthan military leaders grew impatient, subordinates tended to find themselves reassigned to asteroid mining duty. Tell them we are making progress, I said, which was technically true. We were progressing toward complete failure, but progress nonetheless. Walking into the interrogation chamber, I activated my translation matrix and settled into the chair across from Torres. She didn't acknowledge my presence, which was becoming a predictable pattern. Lieutenant Torres, I began, my voice carefully modulated to convey authority without aggression. We both know why you are here. The quantum key in your possession could save thousands of lives on both sides of this conflict. Surely your human concept of mercy extends to preventing unnecessary bloodshed. Nothing. She might as well have been carved from stone. I tried a different approach. Your crewmates from the reconnaissance mission, Pilot Jackson Reed and Engineer Luna Park. They are currently being held in detention cells on Sub-Level 7. Their treatment depends entirely on your cooperation. This time, Torres's jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. Progress of a sort. Ah, I continued, so you do care about their welfare. Admirable, really. Human loyalty is well documented in our studies, though I confess, experiencing it firsthand is quite different from reading reports. For the first time in 3 rotations, Torres turned her head and looked directly at me. Her blue eyes held something I couldn't quite categorize. Not fear, not anger, not even defiance, something else entirely. You know what I find interesting about your species, Kex-9? She said suddenly. I blinked in surprise. First words in 72 hours, and she knew my designation. How? You talk about studying humans like we are some kind of exotic insects, Torres continued, her voice steady despite her obvious physical discomfort. You think you understand us because you have files and reports and behavioral analysis matrices. Our xenopsychology department is quite thorough, I replied, trying to maintain professional composure while internally celebrating this breakthrough. Sure it is. Torres leaned back as much as her restraints would allow. Tell me something, Kex. In all those files, did anyone mention that humans have a really twisted sense of humor? The conversational shift was unexpected. I do not see the relevance of your species' entertainment preferences to our current situation. Oh, but it's absolutely relevant, Torres said, and for the first time since her capture, she smiled. Not a pleasant expression, mind you, something far more unsettling. See, the thing about humans is that we tend to find things funny at the most inappropriate times, especially when we are scared, or angry, or, well, completely screwed. I felt a strange sensation in my primary stomach, something my species experienced when facing unexpected predators. Lieutenant, I would advise you to focus on more productive topics of conversation. Productive, Torres actually chuckled, a sound that made my sensory appendages twitch involuntarily. You want to know what's productive? The fact that while you have been sitting here for 3 days trying to crack me like some kind of puzzle box, my people have been very, very busy. The predator sensation intensified. Elaborate. Well, let's see. Torres tilted her head thoughtfully. First, there's the small matter of the tracking nanobeacon that Engineer Park embedded in my uniform during our capture. Standard procedure for reconnaissance missions, really. Your security scans probably missed it because it mimics human tissue signatures. My tentacles went rigid. Impossible. Our detection systems are... Oh, I'm sure they are very impressive, Torres interrupted. Almost as impressive as the rescue fleet that's been following your ship for the past 2 rotations, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. I was on my feet instantly, activating my emergency communicator. Bridge, this is intelligence. Initiate immediate sensor sweep of surrounding space. Priority Alpha. The response came back within seconds, and it made my blood run cold. Sir, we are detecting 17 human vessels in attack formation, approximately 2 million kilometers off our starboard flank. They appeared on sensors 30 seconds ago, 17 ships, against our single cruiser. Even with superior technology, those odds were problematic. But wait, Torres continued, seemingly oblivious to my growing panic. There's more. You see, that quantum encryption key you want so badly, the one that's supposedly locked in my brain. I turned back to her, dreading what was coming next. It expired 48 hours ago. Automatic security protocol. Every 72 hours the key generates a new sequence and transmits it to command. The old key becomes useless. Torres' smile widened. So even if you had cracked me on day 1, you would have gotten exactly nothing. The chamber seemed to spin around me. 3 days of interrogation, 3 days of pressure from high command, 3 days of career-threatening failure, all for a piece of information that had been worthless from the moment we captured her. However, Torres continued, and her tone shifted to something far more dangerous, there is one tiny detail I haven't mentioned yet. I didn't want to ask. Every instinct I possessed was screaming at me to stun her unconscious and retreat to the bridge, but I had to know. What detail? Torres leaned forward as much as her restraints allowed, her eyes glittering with something that definitely wasn't sanity. The beacon that's been tracking your ship. It wasn't just transmitting your location to my rescue fleet. She paused, savoring the moment. It was also uploading every single piece of data from your ship's computer core to Terran intelligence. Ship schematics, crew rosters, mission parameters, tactical databases, even your personal log entries complaining about your assistant's tentacle hygiene. Nix 4 made an indignant gurgling sound from the observation chamber, but I barely heard him. The full scope of the disaster was beginning to register. 3 days, Torres continued, her voice taking on an almost sing-song quality. 3 full days of unrestricted access to your military networks. Do you have any idea how much damage a human cyber warfare specialist can do with that kind of time and access? I did know, actually. Our own intelligence estimates suggested that human information warfare capabilities were primitive but surprisingly creative, given unlimited access to our systems. You are lying, I said, though even I could hear the lack of conviction in my voice. Am I? Torres asked. Tell me, Kex, when was the last time you checked your bank account? That was an oddly specific question. Also, why would a prisoner care about my personal finances? Unless, my communicator buzzed with an incoming message from Vorthan Central Banking Authority, account frozen due to suspicious activity, all assets under investigation for potential war crimes violations, or your military pension fund, Torres added helpfully. Another message, benefits suspended pending review of service record discrepancies. Oh, and you might want to check on your mating contract with Zara 7. I believe there may have been some, shall we say, updates to your personal profile in the Imperial dating network. I didn't need to check that one. The 17 missed calls from Zara 7 already told me everything I needed to know. How? The word came out as barely a whisper. How did you access classified Imperial networks from a detention cell? Torres's smile took on an almost maniacal quality. You really don't understand humans at all, do you? See, the thing about my species is that we are really, really good at multitasking. While you were focused on trying to break me mentally, I was busy breaking your ship electronically. She wiggled her fingers and I noticed for the first time that the neural disruptors restraining her hands had been subtly modified. The energy output indicators showed normal readings, but the actual suppression fields were operating at minimum power. Turns out human bioelectric fields can interface with Vorthan technology in some very interesting ways, Torres explained. Especially when you have 3 days to figure out the resonance frequencies. Your restraint system isn't holding me, Kex. I'm holding it. The implications hit me like a plasma torpedo to the brain. If she could interface with our systems directly, if she had been conscious and active this entire time, the real question, Torres continued, is what happens next. See, my rescue fleet isn't just here to extract me. They are here to capture this ship and everyone on it. Your crew, your data, your precious High Admiral's pet project, everything. The deck shuddered beneath my feet. Through the chamber's viewport, I could see the distinctive blue flashes of human plasma weapons impacting our shields. But here's where it gets really interesting, Torres said, her voice rising above the sound of battle stations' alarms. I have been in contact with my people this whole time, streaming everything through that lovely neural disruptor network you have got me connected to. They know about your interrogation techniques, your military protocols, even your personal bathroom schedule. Another impact, stronger this time. The lights flickered. So when they board this ship, and they will board this ship, they are going to know exactly where to go and exactly what to do. Your security systems are already compromised, your defensive positions are mapped, your crew's psychological profiles are being analyzed by our tactical AI as we speak. I was dimly aware that I was backing toward the chamber door, my training warring with an almost overwhelming urge to flee. This was not how interrogations were supposed to proceed, but the really funny part, Torres continued, her voice taking on that sing-song quality again, is that none of this would have happened if you had just let me go 3 days ago. I would have returned to my fleet with standard reconnaissance data, filed a routine report, and gone on with my life. Instead, you gave me 3 uninterrupted days to systematically dismantle your entire military operation. The chamber door slid open behind me, revealing Nix 4's panic-stricken face. Sir, we need to evacuate immediately. Human boarding craft have breached the main hangar. Security teams are requesting orders. I looked back at Torres, who was now openly laughing, not the forced laughter of madness, but genuine amusement, as if she had just heard the galaxy's funniest joke. You know what the best part is? She called out as I retreated. I actually like you, Kex. You are polite, professional, even considerate in your own weird way, so I'm going to do you a favor. Despite every instinct screaming at me to run, I paused in the doorway. When my people take control of this ship, surrender immediately. Don't try to fight, don't try to destroy any data cores, just put your tentacles up and cooperate. Trust me on this one. Humans can be very creative when it comes to revenge, and you really don't want to find out what we do to interrogators who don't play nice. The lights went out. Emergency power kicked in a moment later, bathing everything in that ominous red glow that somehow made Torres's smile even more unsettling. Oh, and Kex, she added as we finally turned to flee, next time you capture a human, maybe try asking nicely first. You might be surprised how much we are willing to share when we are not chained to a chair. The sound of her laughter followed us down the corridor, mixing with the sounds of battle and the increasingly desperate calls for reinforcements. Somewhere in the distance, I could hear human voices coordinating their assault, their words translated by our universal systems into coldly efficient tactical updates. I had spent 3 days trying to break Lieutenant Maya Torres. Instead, she had broken us all. The corridors of my ship had become a war zone, and frankly, I was beginning to suspect that Lieutenant Maya Torres had understated the situation. Sir, human forces have secured decks 4 through 7, Nix 4 reported, his voice pitched high with panic as we stumbled through the emergency lighting. They are advancing on the bridge and engine compartments simultaneously. I paused at a junction, trying to remember the last time I had actually run anywhere. My cardiovascular system was protesting vigorously. How many casualties? That is the peculiar thing, sir. They are not killing anyone. Stunning, restraining, but no fatalities reported. Interesting. Either the humans were remarkably merciful, or they had something worse than death planned for us. Given Torres's earlier comments about human creativity regarding revenge, I was leaning toward the latter. An explosion echoed through the ship, followed by the distinctive whine of human plasma cutters. They were moving faster than our tactical projections had suggested possible. Bridge to all personnel, came the voice of Captain Vex 12 over the command system. Prepare for emergency jump to hyperspace. All hands brace for. The announcement cut off mid-sentence, replaced by a distinctly human voice speaking accented Vorthan. Attention crew of the Imperial cruiser Savage Tide. This is Commander Jackson Reed of the Terran vessel Defiant Hope. Your ship is now under our control. Surrender immediately, and you will be treated in accordance with interstellar law. Resist and well, we will get creative. I felt my primary heart skip several beats. Commander Reed, as in Pilot Jackson Reed, one of Torres's supposedly imprisoned crewmates. Sir, Nix 4 whispered, did we not capture Pilot Reed 3 rotations ago? Apparently not, I muttered, pieces of a much larger puzzle beginning to fall into place. If Reed was commanding a rescue fleet, then the entire capture scenario had been a setup. I said aloud, the full scope of our manipulation finally becoming clear. The reconnaissance mission, the easy capture, Torres's stubborn silence, all of it was orchestrated. Another voice came over the comm, this one belonging to a human female with a slight accent I could not identify. "Hey there, Vorthan crew members, this is Chief Engineer Luna Park. Just wanted to let you know that I have complete control of your life support systems, artificial gravity, and pretty much everything else that keeps you breathing and not floating around like confused jellyfish. So maybe consider that whole surrender thing. Yeah, Engineer Park." The third member of Torres's crew, also supposedly captured and imprisoned. I leaned against the bulkhead, a laugh bubbling up from somewhere deep in my chest cavity. Not the pleasant kind of laugh, mind you. The kind that suggested one's sanity was beginning to fray around the edges. 3 days, I said to Nix 4. 3 days we held Lieutenant Torres prisoner, while her entire crew infiltrated our ship and turned it into their personal playground. Sir, should we proceed to the emergency escape pods? Before I could answer, the corridor lighting shifted from emergency red to normal white, and a section of the wall slid open to reveal Lieutenant Torres herself, no longer restrained and looking remarkably healthy for someone who had been bleeding continuously for 72 hours. "Hello again, Kex," she said cheerfully. "Fancy meeting you here." I stared at her, noting the complete absence of wounds, the tactical gear she now wore, and the distinctly military bearing that had been absent during her captivity. "The bleeding," I said stupidly. "You were bleeding for 3 days. Oh, that." Torres reached into a pouch on her belt and produced a small device. Subcutaneous fluid dispenser. Military-grade fake blood with authentic coagulation properties. Quite convincing, really. Reed's idea, actually. He thought it would add to the whole pitiful prisoner aesthetic. She was enjoying this, actually taking pleasure in revealing how thoroughly they had fooled us. It was simultaneously impressive and deeply disturbing. "The neural disruptors," I continued, still trying to process the scope of their deception. "You were connected to our security network through the restraint system." Bingo. Torres tapped her temple. "Human neural architecture is apparently compatible with Vorthan technology in ways your scientists never anticipated. Took me about 6 hours to figure out how to interface with your systems, another 12 to map your entire network, and the rest of the time to systematically dismantle your operational security." Nix 4 made a strangled sound. "But the interrogation protocols, the psychological pressure techniques, were adorable," Torres said with genuine warmth. "Really? Kex, you are probably the politest interrogator I have ever encountered. Most species just go straight to the torture. You actually tried conversation first." There was something almost fond in her tone, which made the entire situation even more surreal. "I am curious about one thing," I said, surprised by how calm my voice sounded. "Why the elaborate charade? If your people could infiltrate our ship so easily, why not simply attack and board us immediately?" Torres's expression grew more serious. "Because, Kex, this was never about rescuing me, it was about sending a message." The corridor around us suddenly filled with armed humans, emerging from concealed positions with military precision. I had not even realized they were there, which suggested their infiltration capabilities were far more advanced than our intelligence estimates indicated. "You see," Torres continued, "the Vorthan Empire has been expanding into human space for the past 2 years, claiming uninhabited systems, establishing military outposts, generally making nuisances of yourselves. Your government seems to believe that humans are primitive, disorganized, and easily intimidated. One of the human soldiers, a massive individual with intricate tattoos covering his arms, grinned at us with far too many teeth. The problem with that assumption," Torres went on, "is that humans do not intimidate easily, and when we do get scared, we tend to do stupid, reckless things that somehow work out in our favor." Commander Reed's voice came over the comm again. "Lieutenant Torres, please report to the bridge. We have some guests who are very eager to meet you." "On my way," Torres replied, then turned back to me. "You are going to want to see this, Kex. Trust me." Against every instinct I possessed, I found myself following Torres and her escort toward the bridge. Nix 4 trailed behind, making small whimpering sounds that I chose to ignore. The bridge of my ship had been transformed. Human technical specialists were at every station, their equipment integrated seamlessly with our systems. Captain Vex 12 sat in his command chair, looking remarkably composed for someone whose vessel had just been captured by a supposedly primitive species. "Ah, Intelligence Officer Kex 9, the captain said as we entered. "I trust your interrogation was productive." The sarcasm in his voice was unmistakable. Even in defeat, Vex 12 could not resist making pointed comments about my professional failures. "Captain," I replied stiffly, "I was not aware you had been negotiating with our captors." "Oh, we have been having the most fascinating conversation," came a new voice. I turned to see a human female approaching from the communication station. She was older than Torres, with silver hair and the kind of bearing that suggested significant authority.
Admiral Sarah Kane, Terran Defense Coalition.
she introduced herself. "And you must be the intelligence officer who spent 3 days trying to crack our Lieutenant Torres." "Admiral," I acknowledged, noting that her tone held none of Torres's playful mockery. This was a military professional, and something in her demeanor suggested I should be very, very careful. "Your captain has been quite cooperative," Admiral Kane continued. "He has provided us with detailed information about Vorthan military capabilities, strategic planning, and expansion objectives, most illuminating." Vex 12's head tentacles drooped slightly. Apparently his cooperation had been less than voluntary. "Of course," Kane added, "we already had most of that information thanks to Lieutenant Torres's excellent work, but it is always nice to have confirmation from primary sources." Torres stepped forward. "Admiral, perhaps we should show them the main event." Kane nodded, and the main view screen activated, displaying what appeared to be a tactical plot of local space. Dozens of red icons surrounded our position, representing Vorthan military vessels. "Your reinforcement fleet," Kane explained, 17 ships, including 2 heavy cruisers and a battleship. "Quite impressive, really." My spirits lifted slightly. Perhaps rescue was still possible. "Unfortunately for you," Kane continued, "they arrived approximately 1 hour ago and have been systematically disabled by my task force." The tactical display updated, showing the Vorthan reinforcements highlighted in yellow, indicating disabled or surrendered vessels. "How?" I asked, though I was beginning to suspect I knew the answer. "While Lieutenant Torres was entertaining you with her prisoner act," Kane said, "Chief Engineer Park was uploading detailed schematics of every Vorthan ship class to our tactical computers. Weapons capabilities, shield frequencies, engine specifications, even crew psychological profiles." Park's voice came over the comm from engineering. "Turns out, when you know exactly how someone's shields are configured, it is really easy to punch through them with precisely modulated attacks. Who knew?" The scope of the operation was becoming clear. This had not been a rescue mission, or even a military raid. It had been a comprehensive intelligence-gathering operation disguised as a prisoner exchange. "But wait," Torres said with that familiar grin, "there is more." Kane activated another display, this one showing star charts of the entire sector. Vorthan military installations were marked in red, but many of them were now flashing yellow. "You see, while we were collecting data from your ship," Kane explained, "our cyber warfare specialists were having a field day with your military networks. Communications hubs, supply depots, command centers, all very vulnerable once you know the right access codes." "Which you provided," Torres added helpfully, looking directly at me. "I provided nothing," I protested. "I never gave you any access codes." "No, but your ship's computer did. Every time you accessed your personal files, checked your messages, or updated your reports, you were authenticating through the central military network. And since I was connected to your ship's systems through the restraint interface, the reality hit me like a physical blow. Every routine action I had taken over the past 3 days had provided Torres with deeper access to Imperial military networks. I had essentially handed her the keys to our entire operation. 23 Vorthan installations are currently experiencing what your people would probably call critical system failures," Kane said. "Nothing permanent, mind you. We are not barbarians, but it will take several weeks to restore full functionality. Weeks during which," Torres added, "your expansion into human space will be somewhat curtailed." Admiral Kane stepped closer, her expression growing serious. "This brings us to the real purpose of today's exercise. Consider this a demonstration, Intelligence Officer Kex-9, a preview of what happens when humans feel threatened. Your species has been testing our borders, probing our defenses, apparently under the impression that we lack the capability to respond effectively," Kane continued. "Today's operation was designed to correct that misconception. The bridge fell silent except for the soft hum of electronics and the occasional murmur from human technicians. So here is what happens next," Kane announced. "Your crew will be transported to neutral station Omega-7 and released unharmed. Your ships will be returned to Vorthan space with full operational capability, but completely purged of sensitive data. And you, personally, will deliver a message to your high command." She handed me a datapad containing what appeared to be a formal diplomatic communication. "The message is simple," Kane explained. "Humanity is willing to coexist peacefully with the Vorthan Empire. We are even open to mutually beneficial trade agreements and cultural exchanges, but we will not be intimidated, conquered, or absorbed." I scanned the document, noting its surprisingly reasonable tone and comprehensive proposals for diplomatic engagement. "However," Kane continued, "should your government choose to continue its current course of aggressive expansion, you now have a clear understanding of our response capabilities." Torres stepped forward one last time, Tell them what you learned here, Kex. Tell them that humans do not break easily. And when we do get pushed too far, we push back in ways that are creative, comprehensive, and thoroughly unexpected. Commander Reed's voice came over the comming. Admiral, transport ships are standing by. We can begin crew evacuation whenever you are ready. Kane nodded. Proceed with the operation. All Vorthan personnel are to be treated with full military courtesy. As human soldiers began escorting my crew toward the transport bays, Torres approached me one final time. For what it is worth, Kex, you really are a decent individual. Under different circumstances, I think we might have been friends. Lieutenant, I said, still trying to process everything that had happened. May I ask you something? Shoot. Was any of it real? The pain, the exhaustion, the desperation? Torres considered the question seriously. The physical discomfort was real enough. Those neural disruptors are not pleasant, even when you are manipulating them. But the rest? She shrugged. I am a reconnaissance specialist, Kex. Deception is literally my job. And the laughter? Oh, that was completely genuine, Torres said, grinning again. See, about halfway through day 2, I realized just how perfectly everything was working out. Your politeness, our infiltration, the intelligence gathering, all of it. It was so absurd, so ridiculously successful, that I could not help but find it funny. She paused, looking almost thoughtful. Besides, humans laugh when we are nervous, scared, or overwhelmed. It is a coping mechanism. And despite appearances, I was all three of those things for most of the past 72 hours. As I was escorted toward the transport bay, I found myself reflecting on the events of the past 3 days. A routine prisoner interrogation had become a comprehensive military defeat, orchestrated by a single human who had turned our own systems against us while pretending to be helpless. Perhaps most disturbing of all, I was beginning to understand why Torres had found the situation amusing. 3 days ago, I had been a respected intelligence officer with a spotless service record and clear career prospects. Now I was the sole survivor of the most spectacular operational failure in recent Vorthan military history, tasked with delivering news that would likely result in a complete reassessment of human capabilities. As the transport ship pulled away from my former vessel, I watched through the viewport as Admiral Kane's task force began to withdraw. No gloating, no victory displays, just professional military efficiency. Lieutenant Maya Torres had been right about one thing. Next time we encountered humans, we would definitely try asking nicely first. Though given the scope of today's demonstration, I suspected there would not be a next time. At least, not the kind my government had been planning. Some species learned through study and observation, others required more direct educational experiences. Humans, apparently, were remarkably gifted teachers.